when we were talking about Albert Sparma, we really felt like he was a creature of the night. He has this kind of menial job that's far beneath his abilities. And I think one of the things that frustrates Mr. Sparma a lot is that he's quite an intelligent guy. Like, he's got a fairly great sense of humor. He just can't understand why no one wants to be his friend.
Yeah.
He's just.
Can I help you?
I saw the for sale sign.
That was for another car.
Got a lot of miles on it. You a salesman?
No.
How's the trunk space?
Standard.
Mind if I take a look? I'm in the market.
It's not for sale.
All I need to do is take a look.
You must really like my car.
I do.
All right, welcome to the actor's side. Today, you all know Jared Leto from so many performances, Academy Award winner, and also musician, obviously, 30 Seconds to Mars. He does it all. So welcome, Jared Leto. Hi, Jared.
Thanks so much.
We're going to talk about acting here today. And let me tell you, your new film, which is The Little Things, which you star with Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, what a cast, and what a story. And it's another great character for you, Albert Sparma. Tell me about him. Tell me why you got attracted to doing this particular role.
I was definitely intrigued at the very mention of his name, Albert Sparma, which I thought was, I actually encouraged John Lee Hancock. I was like, we got to change the name because it's too much fun. It's too out there. And as I started working in a character, I actually fell in love with this name. It's like it's certainly not forgettable. Anyway, I had initially had some resistance because I thought, I'd explored this territory of, playing the suspect or the villain before, and maybe it was time to kind of look at new opportunities. But I really love John Lee Hancock. I think he's a terrific filmmaker. He's a really, really good person. And I thought The Founder was just a phenomenal movie with a phenomenal performance. So after talking with him, we both agreed if I were to do it, we would just push things as far as they could go and to try to build something from the ground up that was really fun to create, and we did that. We kind of went nuts with the preparation, the research, the transformation, never wanting to push it towards the absurd, of course, but I was interested in pushing towards a different side of myself, or looking at things from a different angle. For a variety of reasons, but it was really fascinating to step into those clunky boots.
Oh my God, yeah. And it's such an interesting story. I mean, Denzel and Rami Malek, both with the police searching for a serial killer in what I would call the backwoods of Los Angeles. I was born in LA, lived here, and this is an LA you don't normally see on screen. It's kind of fascinating, the choices that were made here.
Yeah, it's really, LA is definitely a character in the movie. And what was number one, it was great to shoot a movie in LA. Like, hallelujah. Can't we do a little bit more of that? Can Gavin Newsom, the governor, can we get something going on, especially post-COVID? Bring the business back. How much fun would that be for all of us, Pete? You could do something, visit sets easier and employ all these amazing people without dragging them all over the world, all these crew and casts. But anyway, I won't get political. Um,
Why not?
or through selfish, I guess. So yeah, LA. What's fun about making a film, really in any city, is that you get dragged to. You said it perfectly. These kind of like these back. The backyards, the back alleys, the unexpected dark corners sometimes, and beautiful places that you would never go when you live in that city or if you visit a city. So that was really interesting. We shot in all kinds of different places, and it was fun to be at home. I really enjoyed that. But when we were talking about Albert Sparma, we really felt like he was a creature of the night. He has this kind of menial job that's far beneath his abilities. And I think one of the things that frustrates Mr. Sparma a lot is that he's quite an intelligent guy. Like, he's got a fairly great sense of humor. He just can't understand why no one wants to be his friend.
Yeah.
He's just. I mean, I think he'd be quite an interesting guest at a dinner party. But he's a complicated person, and I suppose in hindsight, I am interested in characters that don't quite fit in, that kind of maybe live on the edges, and Albert is certainly one of those characters.
Oh, completely. What was it like working here with Denzel? You got 3 Oscar-winning actors here and a terrific director. I agree. I so agree with you with John Lee Hancock. I've loved everything. And you mentioned The Founder, by the way, which I don't think a whole lot of people saw, but they should have, with Michael Keaton and things.
Yeah,
it was barely
absolutely.
released, but it's fantastic. He's a great director. But here you have Denzel, and you've got Rami Malek, and this very intriguing script, which I guess was written first 30 years ago, and it's taken that long to get to the screen.
Yeah, I remember with Dallas Buyers Club, that script took 20 years to get made, or 21 years or something. We were like, oh my God, this one took even longer. And I guess they just had to marinate a little bit. But it does take you back. And it's interesting because it's like a classic American thriller, but it totally subverts the genre and makes you ask questions. It's not neat, it's not clean, and I love that.
You mentioned the word transform. I was looking this morning over your some of your film credits, and I'm going like, oh my God, I forgot he was in that. He was in that. He was that. He was that. He was even it's Mark David Chapman. I'm thinking you are the ultimate character actor of these times. You just, there isn't a movie role I can pick out here that you're not transforming into something that is not Jared Leto.
Well, I take that as a high compliment. I enjoy that process. I like to kind of push and pull myself into different directions. And, whether that's a physical challenge or, an emotional one, it doesn't matter to me. But I like to, explore new territory every time out. And Albert Sparma was a really great opportunity. And, it was a lot of work, a lot of things that you make that you really don't want people to notice. You just wanted to kind of flesh out the character, like, the way that he might walk or hold his body, or a little bit of weight that you gain, or a different, I had a prosthetic nose. I had, different prosthetics on my face, and I had artificial teeth and brown eyes. But we all wanted it to kind of, not create this distraction, but to help build on this character that we were so excited to put on screen.
Yeah, and to watch this, I don't know a better way to say it than this cat and mouse game that you and particularly Rami Malek's character play is fascinating to watch the two, particularly when, the sequence where you're trying to get them to go in the car that you're driving which, me in the audience is yelling, "What, are you crazy?" Getting in the car with Albert here, driving God knows where.
Talk about a road trip. And I didn't answer your other question as well, and I will, but, working with, let's talk about Mr. Washington first.
Yeah.
And I said this, and I'm going to keep saying it. It'll be like that tape of Gaga where she said the same thing on all the talk shows that was floating around. But I will say this because it's the best way that I can describe it. But for me, Denzel Washington is Brando, he's Pacino, he's De Niro, all wrapped into one. He's all of it. He's Shakespeare to me, and he's one of my heroes. And just watching him walk across the floor of the set towards the first scene was like a monumental experience for me. To watch him, explore and experiment, and to hear his voice and his subtlety was like, it's just a full-on masterclass in acting. And, he's one of these guys, like, it doesn't matter. He can be in a movie that doesn't work and he's still great. He's just has an incredible gift, incredible prowess. And I remember the first scene I had with him, the smallest change that I made, the most minute expression, he was right there. He listened so wholeheartly. It's absolutely beautiful to watch. I mean, it's like watching a Mozart or someone play the piano, I imagine. But that was absolutely incredible. And I'm just so grateful for that opportunity. And Rami, the upstart, he is like the unicorn, the startup of actors, and what a partner for Sparma, because Sparma was, we were off the rails. It was, you had to be on your toes and to be really generous and accepting to be around Albert Sparma. And it's fun, Pete, because these roles, they don't come around that often where you really can't say or do the wrong thing. There's not an inappropriate sentence or suggestion or ad lib, because Sparma is the type of person who has his own set of rules, and it's really fun to live in that space where you can just keep breaking rules.
You said these roles don't come along that often, and that's true. And you're very, you're very picky about what you want to do, and that's very clear in talking to you. You win the Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club, and some people might just run out and start doing every month, cash in on that. You didn't do that. You've been, with your musical career and the movies you're choosing, very careful. I think are things that interest you.
Yeah, that's. I think that had to do with growing up with a bunch of wacky artists, and people that they put the work first. They really were driven by the reward and the experience of creating art, and that's always been the holy grail for me. And it's really all I know. You have to blame my hippie mom for that. But I am, as I get older, and maybe this is just something that happens with age, I just get struck with so much gratitude and humility by the opportunities to work on characters like this. Actually, to have someone pick up on the phone and say, we need someone to go out on a limb and create something, that we haven't seen before, or take a real chance. I'm really honored that people think of me in that way. Very, 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 very lucky that's my cross to bear.
And for you, you actually like to stay in character the whole time, right? When you're doing a role, you're on the set and you are that guy.
Well, Pete, that's a tough one to talk about. I will talk about it, but it's just a funny one, because there's this, preconceived notion of what that experience is. And for me, it's never about ego or being showy. I think the best way to describe it, and maybe we could just cut in a clip of like Daniel Day-Lewis talking, because he was always so eloquent about how he avoided talking about it. He always seemed so polite and humble about it all. And we all work our own ways. But for me, I just like to stay as focused as possible, because honestly, I want to do the best job that I can. And I find like if I'm on my phone or running around, doing things uh, that could distract me, I probably won't do as good a job. So if I work with the director and other actors, I always feel like it's my responsibility to do my homework, to show up super prepared, to be a pleasure to be around. That's important too. Not to make anyone else's life anything but fun, and to be really committed to what I have in front of me. And that's what I've always tried to do.
That's very clear commitment. I mean, you are known, and these performances that you've done, I mentioned chapter 27, Mark David Chapman, you put on all the weight. Well, a brilliant performance in a movie that I hope everybody runs out and sees if they haven't, called Requiem for a Dream, that you did, where you're transforming in the opposite direction. And all of that. Does that take a toll? I'm just always curious, does that take a toll after a while, to be that committed?
Well, I will say, Pete, that I probably won't be gaining 67 pounds anytime. I think that's something that I did in maybe I was a bit excited, maybe exuberant, maybe overreached a bit there, because it's incredible what it does to you. Because whether you lose the weight for Requiem or Dallas, weight is an interesting thing, because it's everything. It's our whole body. It changes your face. It changes your movement, the way you walk. It changes the way you talk. I remember when I gained the 60 something pounds for Chapman, for chapter 27, it changed the way that I laughed. I mean, it was unbelievable. I don't know what happens inside your body or why it did that, but it also there was the toll to pay. And, I think that if you can do your job without doing that stuff, I would always encourage people to do the job without making that big of a physical transformation. That could be detrimental to your health. But I like the commitment. I think too, when you do those things, it's making a physical commitment is a way of planting a flag in the ground and saying that I'm going to push myself as hard as I possibly can.
Let me ask you, this isn't The Little Things is just one movie we're going to be seeing you in 2021, but also Morbius, which you play a vampire badly in need of a blood work, which is great.
It's I mean, talk about a fun movie. That is like, I loved it because the character is this guy named Dr. Michael Morbius. He's a genius. First of all, who doesn't want to play a genius, right?
Yeah.
Like we all want to line up to play a genius, because that's fun. So he's a genius who's dying. He's got this rare blood disease, and he is at the end of his life expectancy. Only about 900 people in the world have this disease, and he's dedicated his entire life to trying to find a cure for the disease. He finds one, of course, experiments on himself, and it works. He gets incredibly strong and healthy. So you go from being like this, frail person who's on the, at the end of his life, to being this incredibly vibrant, healthy person. And then, of course, things start to change, and there's a price to be paid. So that's a lot of fun. And there were like these 3 stages that we got to play with so I got to wrap up some of what I love to do in one of these huge Marvel characters in this Marvel Sony movie that had never been on screen before. It's hard to find one that hasn't been on screen before, so that was really fun. And I think it's going to be kind of like the perfect, you know, hopefully, you know, on the end of COVID, post-COVID film for people to enjoy. Let's just go to the theater, have some fun, and enjoy a big Hollywood movie.
Oh, I'm hoping, you know, and now you're as you mentioned, you're in the Marvel universe there. You've been in the
Yeah.
DC, you've been in the DC universe, and a lot of people are talking about Joker and Zack Snyder's
Yeah.
Justice League. You've gone back to do Joker again as part of this new version, I guess.
Well, I don't know. Are we allowed to talk about this,
Yeah,
Emma? I
yeah,
don't even know what
absolutely.
I'm allowed to say or not. But I haven't spoken about it yet. But I will say that um, I love Zack Snyder, and you know, from the early days and onward, he's a maverick. He is you know, ruthlessly committed to his actors and to his vision, and I'm excited to see where he takes this. You know, it was you know, I really just think so highly of him, and you know, it's a whirlwind being part of these things. You know, it's really just first of all, you're lucky to ever step into any of these shoes or suits or spandex or whatever it is that you have. Um, and it's really fun to reinvent and explore, and uh, that's a really fun challenge that I like a lot. So
Yeah, without saying what it is, and I do respect keeping those secrets for the fans too. You know, I mean, in this
yeah.
day and age, everybody knows everything, and it, you know, movies should be experienced and discovered, which is what I did with The Little Things. By the way, I walked into that knowing nothing, and it just blew
Mm.
me away. But Joker is becoming the Hamlet of our times for actors and different interpretations and things. It's quite fascinating that that character can have this kind of impact.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in the next 10 or 20 years we're going to keep seeing these, you know, amazing interpretations, and so many different people get to step in those shoes. I've said the same thing, Pete. It's like these this mythology overall, you know, these Marvel, DC, yeah, they're popcorn movies, but sometimes they're a little bit more. Sometimes they start to, you know, reflect who and what we're all about in our times. Sometimes they're Shakespearean, and you know, it's quite amazing that, you know, these characters were written 50, 60, 70 years ago, and we're still obsessed with them.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. On your Instagram, I believe you indicated you may be doing Andy Warhol. Is that right?
Well, we hope so. Certainly. I mean, the first thing up for me is working with another one of the titans of this industry, is Ridley Scott
Oh,
on the Gucci film,
oh God, yeah, right.
which is a terrific cast, and again a transformation. You know, whoa, I've started my Italian classes already, and you know, but I'm super excited about that. It's a really wild story, and just a great cast, and Ridley, you know, one of my all-time favorites. So that's first up, and then you know, we have a busy year next year. We might be doing something with our friends over at Disney. That's kind of a childhood dream of mine. I won't say it out loud, but you know, the internet sleuths will, I'm sure, figure out what I'm talking about per the leaked um, articles or information. But so it's been a great year. You know, I hope everybody's safe and sound. I hope you're safe and sound. You sound like me a little bit, like left to my own devices. I don't really leave the house much. Um, and I built a library for myself during COVID. Uh,
Ah,
yeah. So I have my room now filled with all the books.
Isn't
Some
that
I've read.
cool? Isn't that
Yeah,
cool to have? You know, just
yeah, it's
surround
great.
yourself.
It's great. It's great. It's great. It's inspiring and comforting at the same
Yeah.
time.
I can't have a conversation with Jared Leto without mentioning the music, which is so important to you. And, you know, we're
Yeah.
hoping that comes back to next year,
Yeah.
you know, and live concerts and things that we haven't been able to do uh,
Yeah.
most of this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Really looking forward to that. You know, it's important for artists. It's important for the crews and the industry. I mean, the theaters, the small clubs, the stadiums. You know, people depend on these jobs, and the industry's been absolutely shattered, just like the theater business and a lot of the movie business and television. But you know, I'm excited for that to return, and I believe that it will with a vengeance. With a vengeance, I think that there are a lot of people out there that rely that on a source as audience members, that it's a real source of like joy and a huge part of their lives and of community. So, you know, I've been spending this time working on songs. I have maybe close to 100 songs now, and we're excited about putting new music out and then finding some time to get back on the road. So, and I should also mention one other thing. We made a documentary called "The Day in the Life of America." We shot this pre-COVID on July 4th. We had 92 film crews all over America in every single state, capturing a day in the life of this wild, beautiful, crazy country that we all live in. And that's airing on PBS in January.
Oh my gosh, great. That's
Yeah.
that kind of project is amazing as
Yeah.
well to see. Well, let's see. Gucci, Morbius, Joker, Albert Sparma, just the many current faces of Jared Leto. This is what a
Yeah.
career, and so interesting to talk to you about all of it. And thank you for joining us today on the Actors Side.
My absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.